Long Take Review, where 4 college professors talk film, providing insight, not assigning homework. I'm your host, Jen Subchakchai Bankard, and I'm here with 3 Oscar prognosticators. That's right, we just added one more, even though you're listening to this at a different time from the other episode. Who cares? First, I'm not a violent person, but this guy, I'd kill him with a hammer. I'd smash his whole head with a hammer. It's PT McNiff. How's it going, PT?
Do you like gold statues? I love them. I love them. I'm doing great, Jen. How are you?
I'm doing great, too. I did not see that coming. That was wonderful. Okay, and his life ended as quietly as it had begun. He'd never purchased a firearm or spoken into the telephone. He had no idea who his parents might have been, and he left no heirs behind him. But on that spring day, as he misplaced all sense of up and down, he felt, at last, connected to it all. And it all meaning the Oscars. It's Greg Cass. How's it going, Greg?
Why didn't our childhood ruin you? I'm good, Jen. I was as soon as you started and then kept going, I was like, "Oh, this is really incongruous with what I picked." But I'm good. It's really exciting. We've done the work, and now we're here to celebrate the top of the ticket, the over ticket, if you will, as we talk like sports people.
Stop trying to make
Oscar
that a thing.
movie race. Yep. Hashtag over ticket. Let's go, people.
Oh, thank you for that. And last but not least, there are legends of people born with the gift of making music so true it can pierce the veil between life and death. It's Antonio Elefano. He's finally here. How are you doing, Antonio?
Maybe once a week I wake up paralyzed, reliving that night. But before the sun went down, I think it was the best day of my life. Was it like that for you, Jen?
Yes. Oh, you're going to make me cry. Oh, we haven't even started the episode. So, dear listeners, those were all references to films nominated at the Oscars this year. Hopefully, you recognize at least a couple. If so, you're in the right place. We are in the home stretch now. The Oscars air on March 15th. So this is kind of our last stop, last chance to make our final predictions, put our hat in the ring for who we think will win. You'd be surprised. The races are predictable in some places, but really chaotic in others. We'll get into it. I'm excited to get into it. But first, PT, if listeners want to go to Kalshi and place a parlay on all of us, what can they do?
Y'all ready to eat? Y'all ready to drink? Y'all ready to sweat till y'all stank? Then follow the Long Take Review wherever you get your podcasts. We host the show on Jen's Substack at thelongtake.substack.com. But you can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, YouTube, many more. Wherever you're listening right now, you can find us there. You can also look for us on social media. We are on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at The Long Take Review. You can also look for us on Letterboxd. You can follow the account at LTRpod, or you can search for the hashtag LTRpod to see what each of us individually has been watching. Jen.
Thanks, PT. So the way that we like to do this to make it a little bit more manageable is that we will trade off being the discussion leader for each category, and the discussion leader for that category, who has been pre-assigned, will share which nominee they think will win. So what are they predicting at the Oscars? And then which nominee they think should win. So where their personal opinion may diverge or not from their prediction. So, and then we're just going to rinse, repeat, go around the horn. Debate will ensue. People can respond after that initial sort of like prediction being thrown down in the gauntlet. This episode, if you're listening, if you have not listened to the episode previous to this, we covered in that episode all of the craft categories, technical categories, international feature, the shorts. We did it. We did it all, and we saved all of the above the line categories, the acting categories, directing, screenplay, all the sort of like big ticket or over ticket, as Greg is saying, items. Can't believe I just did that for this episode. So it's all here. So if you came just for the high profile stuff, the names that you recognize, you're in the right place. Our first category, Greg, I believe you are taking care of Best Actress for us. Take it away.
Yes, dear listeners, Jen knows I'm a delicate soul who can't handle much hard work. So she gave me the one that is probably, other than K-pop Demon Hunters for Best Animated Feature, the lockiest lock of Oscar night. And that is Best Actress. The nominees for Best Actress are Jessie Buckley in Hamnet, Rose Byrne in If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, Kate Hudson in Song Sung Blue, Renata Rensby in Sentimental Value, and Emma Stone in Begonia. And look, I'm the silly one on this podcast, but I will say these are 5 really good performances. I think it's fair to rank Kate Hudson as 5th on that list, but to still note she's doing really good work in that movie, whatever that movie's charms or flaws may be. So, but this has always been Jessie Buckley in Hamnet. She is definitely going to win this award. She won just last night at the Actor Awards TM, brought to you by SAG-AFTRA, and did a great job kind of spreading the love and talking about the part and the experience. She gave a huge amount of praise to her date for the night, which was Emily Watson, her co-star, and it was just a really lovely reminder of the fact that this is a really special movie. And, 3 out of 4 people on this podcast really enjoyed it, and the 4th just wanted it to be Hamlet. So, other than that, everybody's happy. Should win, I think, will be storming from the balcony and swinging in while singing a 17th century choral hymn. It'll be Amanda Seyfried thumping her chest and winning. So I've beat this drum far too often this award season, but Amanda Seyfried did everything Jessie Buckley did, plus she sang and danced in Anne Lee. So she should have been nominated. Of these nominees, I think Jessie Buckley probably should win, but I would give Rose Byrne the shout out for very deserving should win. The only, the centerpiece, the only part of that movie, the movie entirely hinges on Rose Byrne's performance, and she just absolutely knocks it out of the park. With all due respect to our beloved host Conan, hashtag Team Coco, hashtag over ticket. Others.
I mean, yeah, there's only a couple of categories up here in this in our above the line zone where we're going to not have much to say. There's not much to say. Like Rose Byrne would be a very worthy winner. There was that the critics prizes that she was taking home a lot of. And it was like, well, wait a minute, is this going to become Rose Byrne? And it's not. It's been Jessie Buckley, as people have predicted for basically a year now, or, going back to last summer. And she's been wonderful in many things. She's wonderful in this. She totally deserves it. I think she's going to give a great speech. Jen, my condolences. Craig and Antonio, my congratulations. Because she's Irish,
Wait,
Jen.
what?
She's Irish, Jen. You're going to have to hear an Irish accent.
Oh, jeez. Just when I managed to forget about that, then you bring it back. Roll it out again. Yeah, I have nothing to add to this. This is our one acting category. That is our one sweeper. That is whatever all the pundits keep referring to Jessie Buckley as. So I think, people are trying to make something interesting by being like, well, maybe Rose Byrne, but that's just because they're bored, which is crazy because other categories should not be making them bored.
Also, Jessie Buckley has done no harm to the campaign. Her speeches have all been lovely. The reception to her speeches have always have indicated like a warmth and a feeling of just like, this is a deserved win. So I think that yeah, this is a lock. But I would say the should win in the category is Rose Byrne. I'd put Rose Byrne actually over Jessie Buckley. But Jessie Buckley is an incredible actress. This is not my favorite Jessie Buckley performance ever, but like Jessie Buckley should be an Oscar winner.
And, in another year, like it as the resident Hamnet skeptic, like it feels like Hamnet would be a very strong contender. And it did feel for a while it was going to be the attempted spoiler, but, Sinners reemerged or I mean, in a way never really left and people had to acknowledge it. Now we have these 2 Titan powerhouse movies that are duking it out for the big awards. And suddenly Hamnet is really probably just going to win this. Like this is the only thing it's really in contention for. So it also, does sort of make sense. It got, what did it get? 8 nominations, I think. And it's very, it's going to be Jessie will be carrying the torch for that. Would I maybe give it to Rose Byrne? I think that I would give it to Jessie Buckley for like a career push. I mean, I love Rose Byrne's career as well, but I think Jessie Buckley has had award-worthy performances before. Whereas, like, I think Rose Byrne has been very funny before, and has done a good job in the things that she's been funny in, but not necessarily haven't been like, why does she have an Oscar yet? Whereas with Jessie Buckley, I've thought that a couple times.
Total aside, but I loved watching her at the Actor Awards throw her love towards Seth Rogen every time Seth Rogen had to stand up, like clearly buddies, which just made me happy. I like when you see that at award show. That's why we watch them.
Co-stars on an Apple TV show that, of course, we all remember and know the title of. But they are. There's a Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne
Platonic.
Apple TV show.
Oh.
Platonic.
Listeners can't see Greg doing a victory dance in his chair. All right. So we did give Greg the softball category to start with, but now we're giving Antonio the curveball category, and that is Best Actor. Let's go.
All right. So the nominees, the 5 excellent nominees for Best Actor are Timothée Chalamet and Marty Supreme, Leonardo DiCaprio in One Battle After Another, Ethan Hawke in Blue Moon, Michael B. Jordan in Sinners, and Wagner Moura in The Secret Agent. So in my research for today and getting ready for today, I went through the awards that all of these folks have picked up. And you had the opposite of what we have in Best Actress, where Rose Byrne did take a lot of like the big critics awards. She took New York, LA, the National Board of Review, but then it was just a steamroll for Jessie Buckley. It's just been pretty consistent. So the feeling was that even with the sort of spreading the wealth among the critics, that Timothée Chalamet was the front runner. And then yesterday, the Screen Actors Guild, Timothée Chalamet, who won last year for A Complete Unknown, and I think that's important to note, lost to Michael B. Jordan in Sinners, and the crowd went crazy. Like Viola Davis, who presented, normally there's some type of modicum of like, they'll be surprised, they'll be happy for the whatever, but that was just like just complete and utter joy, and then complete and utter joy from the crowd. So to sort of review the sort of chaos that we have now, we have Timothée Chalamet won Golden Globe Comedy and Critics' Choice. Michael B. Jordan just won the Screen Actors Guild. The BAFTA award went to Robert Aramayo for I Swear. He's not nominated here, but that was where we thought maybe we could get some clarity on the frontrunner pre-SAG. Wagner Moura took Golden Globe Drama, and the New York Film Critics. Ethan Hawke took LA National Society of Film Critics. Leo took National Board of Review. So, okay, to figure this out, I went through the list of best actors leading up to this year, and I tried to think sort of like viewing this in sort of trends. So to me, I'm going to stick with Timothée Chalamet, and here's my reasoning. If you look at recent winners, Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, Brendan Fraser for The Whale, Will Smith, King Richard, Anthony Hopkins, The Father, Joaquin Phoenix, Joker, right? These are all films where the lead actor is the main focus, like clearly the main focus of the film. Michael B. Jordan is excellent, but part of a larger ensemble. And in fact, won the ensemble award. Sinners won the ensemble award at SAG. While his character is central within it, he's not the singular focal point of the film in the same way that Chalamet is. And this is the only place. I mean, I've been tracking your predictions for the other categories, so this is the only place where Marty can actually be supreme. So there was a lot of love for Marty Supreme and for this film, and this is the one place where I think that he can win it. There's also the old sort of prejudice against horror films and genre films that works against Michael B. Jordan here. And there's the feeling that even though Timothée Chalamet is the youngest in this category, there's the feeling that like because we've heard his name and he's come this close, he's been second place a few times, that he's sort of like due, right? So I understand, and I wouldn't be unhappy to see Michael B. Jordan take this, and I do think that he's the closest to upsetting Timothée Chalamet, just as he did at Screen Actors Guild. But Timothée Chalamet won Screen Actors Guild last year for A Complete Unknown, and Adrian Brody came back and won the Oscar, his second Oscar there. So I'm still sticking. I don't feel nearly as good about it, obviously, right? But that's part of what makes this exciting. But I still think Timothy Chalamet will win. I think Timothy Chalamet should win. I think that he followed up like last year with Dune Part 2 and A Complete Unknown with something that somehow was even more electric and even more deserving of like attention and plaudits in a performance in a movie for just like that I will remember for a really long time. Michael B. Jordan also really excellent in a really excellent movie, and I think his movie is better. But I think at the end of the day, uh, it's going to be Chalamet, and I think it should be. Now, I'm take it away. What do you all think?
I think all that makes total sense. I think that looking at the Adrian Brody trajectory, which last year, which was also win a Critics' Choice, win a Golden Globes, win a Critics' Choice, and then lose at the actors at the SAG now actor awards. He did also have the BAFTA mixed in, but the BAFTA's thrown a curveball. But that would be the same trajectory for Timothy this year. And then of course Adrian Brody came back and won again for and won at the Oscars. So I think that's possible. I don't want to delve too far necessarily at this point, but I think we have some big picture things that are happening. And I don't want to be like Jen, because I don't want to take Jen's corner, because Jen's smarter about all this, and she has Post-it notes that do a better job of making arrangements of this stuff. But we've got two movies that are both, I think, equally strong in terms of there's like a generally overall a base of support. And I think a question that's in this category is how much will the strength of those two movies and the desire to support it just like suck up possibilities and just destroy the space and take away the air for any other movie besides Hamnet and Actress, because that's locked in, to get one of these other acting awards. I mentioned this. This is internet. This is the kind of thing you can't see following a document to see the awards. But I did mention in the last recording, and I'll reiterate, there was that story that came out about the Safdie brothers, and particularly Josh Safdie as a target for very poor behavior and potentially endangering an underage woman on set during the movie Good Time. And at the moment, it kind of felt like, well, that's crappy, and that's not a good thing that should have happened. Seems like maybe there's some hearsay. It's a little vague. I don't know. This feels like Oppo research for an Oscar voting campaign, in the old kind of Weinstein mode. But also, it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing that happened, a bad story. And at the moment, and when it happened, I was just sort of like, okay, that's a story. It does feel like from that moment on, the Marty Supreme chatter and support has kind of disappeared. Where that suddenly, like, there's not a lot of momentum, there's not a lot of support for anything around that movie. It does feel like if there's going to be a win, it's going to be here for Timothy. Despite maybe what we may have said, go listen to our last episode to see some areas where we thought Marty Supreme should get some below the line support. Everything you're saying, though, like, still makes sense, because it's still a movie that people really liked. He's still an actor everyone really respects. He's been around, even though he's young, he's been around so much, he's been nominated so many times that it doesn't feel weird. In the same way that, like, it's kind of weird to be like, Saoirse Ronan is so overdue, even though she's like 28. But like, she is overdue because she's been nominated so many times, and so is Timothy. So it does feel possible. I do wonder if I will note. I said the morning of the Screen Actors Guild, I was like, here's my one prediction, which I was wrong about, which is always great. And it was that Leo would take Best Actor. And my thinking on it was, One Battle and Sinners are going to take more of the acting categories than we think. And potentially all three of these are going to go to one of those movies. And I thought Leo would be the one to capitalize on that. Then Michael B. Jordan won. I wonder the degree to which the events of what transpired at the BAFTA Awards, which were very awful and put him and Delroy Lindo in a terrible situation, have swung sympathy towards, like, what are we doing? Like, this guy was great. He played two roles. Like, and this movie's great. We think it's great. And that's going to be enough to maintain that momentum over Timothy. All that being said, off mic before we started, Greg said something very wise, which is, in when all else is uncertain, default to what we thought was going to happen in December, and that's probably going to be right. And that we thought it was going to be Timothy. So I do think landing on Timothy as a will win like makes sense. I think right now I'm going with Michael B. Jordan for will win. And then I don't even want to begin to talk about like who should win. I think we need a 5-way tie. I think these were all great, and let's just give it to all of them. Who cares?
Not a lot to add to what either of you said. I primarily, so what I did last night is I filled out my whole ballot yesterday afternoon, working through preparing for this episode because I work very hard as a podcaster, and I left this race and the next two blank till I saw the actor awards, and so at 11:30 last night, I was like, "Don't do it. Wait till the morning." But then I saw my pen and I walked right over and I thought, what would I do if I were an Academy voter who was tuning in tomorrow morning and booting up the portal and putting my votes in? And I went back to Chalamet. I do think it matters that this seems to be the only award Marty will probably get. I do, I might be on the warmer side of the crowd on Marty Supreme, but I think it would be a shame if Marty Supreme walked away with nothing. I think it's already gotten, it was nice to see Odessa out last night. It was nice to see Gwyneth Paltrow out last night at the Actor Awards TM sponsored by SAG-AFTRA. So I do think like it was a reminder like this. PT has said this line nicely a few times tonight, which is like any other year, you can imagine Marty Supreme getting 12 Oscars, right? It's just such a crowded year on really great movies. So this is the one I think it'll get. And I think I'm sticking with Chalamet. Should win. I still would probably stick with Chalamet, but you could convince me to go Michael B. Jordan. He's really great. And he is like aging into his like Hollywood statesman age now in a really wonderful way. And I think that was on full display last night at the awards. I will remind listeners, I will anecdotally tell you all. So he gave one of his charming speeches last night. My wife was like, wow, he's really great. And I was like, you know what he's doing right now, right? And she's like, no. I'm like, oh, he's directing and starring in a Thomas Crown Affair reboot. And I think my wife died. Just in that moment, she passed out for a solid 10 minutes because what sounds better? So if we're not getting him this year, let's get him next year for that and just give him everything.
All right. So here is what I would like to enter into the evidence. The difference between Timmy last year and Timmy this year is the voting window for the Oscars. So when Timmy won SAG for A Complete Unknown last year, was not the Actor Awards then, so I don't have to say that. Voting for the Oscars had already closed. This year, SAG is right in the middle. There's like 3 days left when we're recording this, which I believe is Monday, March 2nd. The SAG Awards, the Actor Awards, TM, whatever nonsense, was last night. And there's still 3 days left of the Oscar voting. So Timmy losing does have potentially a direct impact on the remaining votes. And conversely, the momentum that Michael B. Jordan seemed to have generated, if you watched the ceremony last night, and Antonio did a great job sort of describing what went down, that could give him a big boost, right? And so I think in the midst of chaos, what often pushes people over the edge is that late stage momentum, that swell of support that kind of doesn't seem to come out of nowhere. That's not what I mean, but seems to suddenly surge in a way that changes the race at the last second. This happened with Parasite the year that it won at the Oscars. This happened with Coda. I remember distinctly seeing the cast of Coda visiting the Bidens at the White House. Wow, that seemed like forever ago. And it was a different time. And then me being like, oh, they're going to win Best Picture, right? So and I don't mean to compare Best Picture to Best Actor here necessarily, or conflate the two, but I do think there's a way in which this moment for Michael B. Jordan turns into something. Like it wasn't necessarily like him winning in of itself could have just been a SAG thing, right? Like we had already sort of said for a long time that SAG would be friendly to sinners and that it would probably
if you will.
um, and that Sinners would get ensemble. Like people predicted that forever. And so there was always going to be a little bit of pro Sinners bias at SAG, but I do think that the timing of Michael B. Jordan's win and the way that he reacted, the way the room reacted, the Viola Davis meme that is now a thing going around the internet, like I think all that can kind of push him forward and push him past Timmy. And then meanwhile, and this is the other evidence I want to enter, Timmy has had a very controversial or polarizing campaign this year, right? It's really hard to listen to an Oscar podcast without somebody being like wringing their hands about like, well, like, is everybody into his like method acting Marty Supreme campaign, his boasting, his grandstanding? He's worked really hard to sort of establish, hey, this is the one I want it for, and I want it, and I deserve it. Like that's the energy he's putting out into the world, right? With this campaign. And that's gonna rub people the wrong way in some cases, right? Some people are into it, some people aren't. It's indicative of how people reacted to his SAG speech last year, right? Some people were like, good for him. Other people were like, well, this guy, right? And I think that the character of Marty Supreme, and then I'm gonna be done. Sorry, this has been really long. The character of Marty Supreme has a similar problem where, yes, I acknowledge that Antonio is absolutely right. He is the center of his movie in the same way that Mikey Madison was the center of Anora, right? Like taking up the whole space of the film is the film, basically, right? Is the name of the film, right? Like, so you could make the argument that it's sort of like Mikey Madison winning for Anora, right? But Anora was won Best Picture, right? So that kind of complicates that a little bit. But Marty Supreme, at the end of the day, is a little so-and-so, right? And a lot of people are irritated by him and don't like him, right? So my whole like overarching theory, which I'll get into more with other categories, is like I think voter psychology in terms of this year in particular with so many great choices, voters are going to have a harder time separating how they feel about a character in a movie from the performance. I step down.
Antonio, you're the legal expert, but lawyers, they enter in evidence, but then they also have to come to a decision and make an argument, right? Isn't that accurate?
So yeah, I'm saying my prediction right now, currently, my post-it note says Michael B. Jordan. So I'm bailing on Timmy for now. I reserve the right to change in the next 2 weeks based on what happens. But
to what degree is it recency bias that we are just like, wow, what a great time at the SAG Awards? Because I do feel like we also had this conversation last year where it was like, what if Timmy? And you know, obviously it wasn't. I think your point about the voting windows, although I'd be very curious, this is information they probably never release, how many people vote in the first like day versus the last day. You know, who wants to make sure they can get it in. I was trying to look around for an historical comp. I will say, the Brody and Timmy last year one is pretty strong. But I was looking around. It's just, we've had so many races, and this was kind of just like a broader thing about having, we're about to get into the supporting acting races as well. And those are also totally up in the air. And we are used to having 2 or 3 or even 4 sweeps, or at least just like powerhouses that are running through the thing where, you know, we got 1 or 2 where we're like, I don't know, like actress last year. But to have this much confusion and chaos is sort of out of, very much out of the norm. So the closest I could find, I'm just going to, put it out there to sort of float, is 2008, movie year 2008, award year 2009. And just a little rundown. I don't know if this isn't helpful or anyway. I don't know, but we'll see. Our friend from this year, Sean Penn, wins the Critics' Choice Awards in early January. A few days later at the Golden Globes, the actor wins are split between Mickey Rourke in The Wrestler and Colin Farrell in Bruges. 2 great wins, by the way. Screen Actors Guild, still called that at the time. We go back to Sean Penn in Milk. Then at the BAFTAs, we go to Mickey Rourke in The Wrestler And then, as I think we likely know, Sean Penn did end up winning at the thing. But that's sort of like, oh, it really feels like it could go either way. And we're going back and forth between two very chill and fun people that everyone likes to work with, Sean Penn and Mickey Rourke. And I'll just note that same year in the actress category, we had the Critics' Choice Award was a tie between Anne Hathaway and Rachel Getting Married and Meryl Streep in Doubt. The Golden Globe wins were Kate Winslet for Revolutionary Road and Sally Hawkins for Happy Go Lucky. SAG was Meryl Streep in Doubt. BAFTA was Kate Winslet in The Reader, which ends up being the winner for what's happening there. So I guess I'm saying all that because I thought that was fun. I don't know what that tells us because it's sort of like, oh well, Kate Winslet got the most recent one, like so that's sort of like Michael B. Jordan. The Sean Penn, Mickey Rourke was sort of alternating back and forth. So yeah, I think it's difficult. I think it is sort of down to I may have said in a thread that two of you are on that I think any five of these like could win. Like it would be weird if Ethan Hawke or Leonardo DiCaprio won at this point. But like if suddenly it's just like, oh, we love One Battle, we love Sinners, but actually we're just going to give a bunch of extra awards to One Battle. Like suddenly Leo emerging as the winner would be unprecedented, but also wouldn't be weird to me. I think One Battle winning 1 to 3 acting awards is on the table. Just in a way, a sort of just like, oh, we meant to give Sinners an award in acting, but then we screwed it up because we just didn't vote that way collectively. And then Ethan Hawke would be very strange, but like, what if it's just sort of like everyone's vote is splitting and it's like with Old Guard, we're going to give it to him. That doesn't really make sense. And there's no sort of precedent for it beyond the critics, but there is something there that wouldn't feel like totally out of place in a way that, all due respect, like Kate Hudson would, even if there was, more of a shakeup in actress. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think my current instinct is to agree with you, Jen, and say it's Michael B. Jordan based on the sequences of events that's happening and the strength of Sinners. But I also kind of feel like Antonio and Greg might be right, and I will be proven wrong, and I'll be okay with that. That it's just like, why are we doubting? What if it happens and Chalamet wins? It'll be like, what were we thinking? Of course, that was always going to be the case. In the same way, to a degree, that like why were we questioning that the titular star of like this big movie last year that won picture and director and other things was also going to win Best Actress? Why did we talk ourselves into the horror movie person winning? That was weird. I think it would make sense if Chalamet won, but right now I could see I'm thinking it's Michael B. Jordan.
The possibility that we haven't mentioned, and we should, is Wagner Moura sneaking in from the outside and finding an opening because he did win a Golden Globe, right, against Michael B. Jordan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the point that I've heard a couple people make is that you can't compare him to Fernando Torres because, well, first of all, they're two different people, but that he is much more well known in Hollywood than Fernando Torres would have been the year she was nominated, from working on Narcos, and like he's just like better known. Like people know him and like him in the industry, so it's not like he's kind of an unknown. Thank you, Greg, for again reminding us about Civil War, a movie that does exist and that I have seen. And apparently he's just been really, really charming and making friends with everybody on the campaign trail. He's apparently Amy Madigan's like smoking buddy at events. They're like, let's get out of here, get a cigarette. So I think I personally wouldn't pick him because I think The Secret Agent as a film is not quite strong enough. Again, see our discussion of international feature in the previous episode, but I wouldn't rule it out. I think it actually technically is a 3-way race between Timmy, Michael B. Jordan, and Wagner Moura.
I mean, I think we can, like, to the degree we can lock anything in, I think we're split two and two. I mean, it's Antonio's category. He said Timothy. Our document will say Timothy, but we're split 2 and 2 between Michael B. Jordan and Timothée Chalamet, which I think includes everyone being like, and we'd be fine if it went either way, on that regard, which is lovely. To somehow pivot to a category that's more confusing than this. I'd like to take you through Best Supporting Actress. The nominees in this category are Elle Fanning, in sentimental value, Inga Ibstadter Lilius in sentimental value, Amy Madigan in weapons, Wunmi Masaku in Sinners, and Teyana Taylor in One Battle After Another. Uh, I mean, the thing that's great that I just want to say is like, there's no performances in these three up in the air acting categories that I would be super mad if they won. Like there's a little degree about like if they gave it to Elle Fanning instead of Inga Ibstadter Lilius would be a little bit like, oh, okay. But Elle Fanning was great in that movie, and these are all wonderful performances. I think Elle Fanning is the only person where we can say like, thank you for being here. Why don't you go sit over there and we'll talk for a little bit. Everybody else has some claim to this title. Inga Ibstadter Lilius won National Border Review. That was a while ago. That doesn't seem that much. However, as we discussed with International Feature, sentimental value may only have that one win, and even that win is threatened by The Secret Agent, which has a lot of strength from Brazil and has a lot of strength from other award things. So it feels possible that like if the Academy acted with like some sort of like, mono brain and actually like planned things out, if they wanted to spread the wealth a little bit, this would be a place where they could say, oh, we could reward sentimental value here. It could go to Inga. And maybe because there's all this competition with the other nominees here, could Inga have that like Wagner Mora thing about just like, well, wait a minute, I'm just going to come, like sneak around the side and suddenly I'm in the front of the race and end up somehow winning. Not likely, but I don't think that's impossible. Wunmi Masaku won BAFTA, which was a big deal and was not really expected. And there's a general Sinners tide that's lifting all the boats. Teyana Taylor was the early favorite, won at the Golden Globes, and also won the LA Film Critics and the National Society of Film Critics, which are big and notable. And then Amy Madigan won last night, SAG Actor Awards. Also won at the Critics' Choice Awards earlier in the season, and got the New York Film Critics. I don't know what the answer is. I cannot tell you that I in any way am confident about this. What I will say is, after going back and forth, adding, deleting, moving things around, I am just going to say it's going to be Teyana Taylor for One Battle After Another for Will Win. And I think it's because of the strength of that movie and because they want to give it at least one acting. I think that might lead to it getting two acting, which we can get to and we can discuss. I'm just going to say that, even though like it could just as easily, I feel like, be Amy Madigan, and it's not that far behind for it to be Wunmi Masaku. I will note this now because I don't know if it needs to come up, if there's another space for me to bring it up later, but in looking at historical comps, I spent a bunch of time looking at the 1976 Academy Awards, where one movie, Network, won 3 acting awards, and another movie, Rocky, won director and picture and editing. And I was like, oh, like, wow, I wonder if Sinners could win 3 acting awards and we could get Wunmi and Delroy and Michael B. Jordan, and then One Battle After Another still wins Best Picture and Best Director. Not likely, but also not impossible, not unprecedented that something like that could happen. But I think because One Battle is strong, and I think to give away later discussions a little bit, I think it is still going to win Best Picture. It is still going to win Best Director. That means it's strong enough that people will be supporting it in the acting categories. And it's got to, that wins are going to have to emerge somewhere. And I think Teyana Taylor, as that kind of constant favorite who maybe people got a little sick of, but now we're at the voting and it's like, what are we doing? Like, that's what a clear-cut supporting role, running the show for the first act of that movie and then hanging over the rest of it, that she could win. Should win, I'm going to say Amy Madigan, because I think that would be great. And Weapons winning an Oscar would be really fun. And Gladys is incredible. And I'm somewhat splitting the difference then. So if I lose my prediction, at least I got my should, because they are the 2 front runners right now. What do you all think about this second confusing category in the acting area?
I think you're right. I think Teyana Taylor is going to take it. I'm also, it is a very confusing category. I think that I think that the Oscars don't always play nice with like the career awards. Like, think back to like Lauren Bacall when she was like the heavy favorite to win. I think it was like 1997, and then Juliette Binoche took it for The English Patient. Um, to me, this as soon as I saw One Battle After Another, and just the first act of One Battle After Another, and that's all she's in. It reminded me of like scene stealers in the vein of like Allison Janney, Monique, Melissa Leo, Ariana DeBose, and like just characters who you just sort of like, even though they're not the lead of the movie, that's what you associate this their scenes, their character. And to me, like she's in a film that has a lot of standout performances, which we'll talk about in the next category, I think as well. I think that she's the standout of the standouts. So yeah, I think that you're right with Tiana. I actually think that's my should win too. What about the rest of you?
This is another. I went back to December and just said, if it's all up in the air, where did people put their hearts first? And so for me, it's Teyana Taylor. I'm gonna throw it to Wunmi Mosaku for Should Win. I think she's luminous and just incredible in that movie. And she stood out in Loki, the silly Marvel show, and then she showed up in Deadpool and Wolverine, reprising her silly role from Loki. But like when she was on screen in that show, you're like, oh, I think she's got something. And then you saw Sinners, and it was like, wow, she's really got something. Like she is the heart of that film in a really wonderful way. Shout out also, my children are completely obsessed with the reboot of the Muppet Show on Disney Plus right now. And so shout out to the great Gonzo, who does a stunt with rocket powered roller skates going through a loop de loop while reciting historic Oscar winners for the best supporting actress category. And then he just skates through multiple scenes just saying names of actresses like Monique and many others. So
Yes.
so just huge shout out to Gonzo for being one of us. Thank you,
Yep.
Gonzo, for your service and years of joy. But I'll take Teyana Taylor, will win. Wunmi Mosaku should win. Jen, is this one where you have any clue? Your numbers are failing you. There is still that beating, thumping heart full of steroids in your chest. You could choose with your heart. What do you pick?
Yeah, I mean that's the problem here is that I can't tell if I'm hope dicting because currently, and this is the one prediction that I might say on the show. Inevitably, every year there's like one or two that right after we record I change my mind, and I currently have Wunmi Misaku, and part of me is like that doesn't feel right because I also have Michael B. Jordan, and that feels like too much, considering I don't think Sinners is going to pull out a Best Picture win. So again, you have to balance your prediction math in terms of like a movie that you don't have winning Best Picture can't get so much that it like feels like it should get Best Picture. But at the same time, I'm really conflicted about Teyana Taylor because the precursor evidence is just not really there. The only televised award she's won is Golden Globes. And the weird thing is when I talk to people about One Battle After Another, the people who aren't so high on it are not high on it because of her character. And because they feel like she's too morally gray and they don't understand her. And I've heard the critics who are not super high on it. They're out there. The ones that aren't super high on One Battle After Another. they like, and then people are like, oh, she's only in the beginning of the movie. So like, yeah, so I feel like I'm, and not to spoil the next category, which I'm about to introduce too, but like there's a gender double standard with what kinds of performances we reward. And I feel like there's going to be one in the next category that we do typically reward. It's a very classic type of Oscar performance that we let win. Whereas Teyana Taylor, I think I'm a little iffy on. In terms of like, is her character polarizing enough for all of the voters that she's not going to be able to pull it out? And the Amy Madigan thing, so if you're wondering, we're assuming Elle Fanning and Inga cancel each other out. I have not heard anyone actually make a case for either of them. So it is again this kind of like weird three-way race where everyone has something. I do think BAFTA does hold a little bit more sway. A lot of people are sort of saying Wunmi Mosaku, because she's British, that is the only reason that she won BAFTA. And I'm like, I mean, I guess that's a little like there could be she could have gotten a little boost because of that, but I feel like her performance stands on its own. And the king thing we keep forgetting is Sinners is in contention for Best Picture. I would say One Battle is still in front, but like it's a major contender at the Oscars, right? Unlike maybe some other you like if you made that argument and she was in a movie that was farther down the list, then I could sort of see okay, fine. But and then Amy Madigan is the thing that's scratching my head because like the thing that has me scratching my head because she's not quite Jamie Lee Curtis level, right? She is a veteran. Her speech started with "I've been doing this a long time," right? And people seem to respond positively to that. And so you can kind of see it, but Jamie Lee Curtis was in the Best Picture winner that year. Amy Madigan is in a movie for which she is the only nominee. And I just feel like that's not enough to convince me that that her win is going to carry over from SAG. To me, it feels like out of the 4 acting wins at SAG, hers feels the least likely to repeat because it feels like they respect her as a member of the industry, and you know what I mean. It's like a peer, like as a peers voting for her, kind of like, oh, thank you for being so great for so long, and we loved you in this movie. And I don't think that's going to really translate to the Oscars. So, I mean, that leaves me with like, I don't really know. That's why I'm left with Wunmi Mosaku because she won BAFTA. She's in a huge contender for Best Picture, a movie that's going to win a bunch of Oscars. We've already predicted that Sinners is winning a bunch of Oscars. So like, that's kind of where I've landed, but something about it still doesn't feel right to me in terms of like how it fits into the overall puzzle.
Two hopefully quick things to say in response to all that, which is all great stuff. One, just to note, because I did stumble upon this while looking around. If Amy Madigan did win, she would be the 9th person to win Best Supporting Actress, with the only nomination for the movie being her nomination. The last 3, in case you're curious, the 3 that we likely remember are Penelope Cruz for Vicky Cristina Barcelona in 2008, Angelina Jolie for Girl Interrupted in 1999, and Marissa Tomei for My Cousin Vinny in 1992. So, you know, she'd be joining that list. Is she going to? I don't know. We're getting into the will this person join this relatively rarefied air? It's going to come up again in a few minutes. And just real quickly, because I was doing while you were talking, when you're like, could this be Wunmi and Michael B. Jordan? But then it doesn't go on to win Best Picture. Just one from looking, I have the last 10 years up because I'm a nerd to have that going. And I also just had a memory of another one, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, had a lead and supporting actor win, and of course did not win Best Picture or Best Director. And also going further back in the day and maybe less prescriptive, Cabaret had Liza Minnelli win Best Actor and Joel Grey win Best Supporting Actor, but didn't win Best Picture. To The Godfather did win Best Director, so there was a split year. But it's not like often, obviously, and usually when there's 2 like Oppenheimer and Everything Everywhere had 3, that usually there's a lot. But I mentioned Network having 3 acting wins and not getting Best Picture as well. It's possible. There's like, it's rare, but it's possible that it could happen. And I kind of feel like there's like the energy around Sinners. I feel bad saying this. This sounds bad, and maybe it is bad. And Jen's going to be like, "Well, we're cutting this." But I kind of feel like the BAFTA incident has coalesced a lot of the feeling from pundits, especially pundits and just cultural commentators from the Black community, who are like, Sinners isn't being valued, and it's not because it's a vampire movie; it's because it's a Black movie, and people don't care about that story, but they do care about the story about the white guy who's at the middle, and the Black characters like Tiana Taylor and Chase Infinity are like secondary to the white guy, written and directed by a white guy as opposed to the movie written and directed by a Black guy. And I think the events of BAFTA have sort of really coalesced the like idea of this is not just supporting Sinners, a movie people really like and folks really connected with. It is standing up for like, shouldn't Black people be recognized for what they have gone through in the past and also in the present, and this movie is great, and this movie is like really, really well done. So I feel like that could be something that could swing some of these awards. Again, it does it like, it wouldn't be weird to me if this helps Wunmi Mosaku, this helps Michael B. Jordan, and we'll get to in a second, it could help Delroy Lindo to suddenly like, what if like all 3 of those win, and then maybe it still doesn't win Best Picture and Best Director, but like, I don't think it's strange for you to say Woodmead could take this, even though, she has as many precursors on TV as Tana Taylor. And like, it feels a little weird that like, wait a minute, but these two are going to win. Like I don't know. It does seem possible. I don't know if even that would be enough to get Sinners over the hump at the top two, but like, it could happen. So I do still think it's Tana Taylor. I'll lock that in for my will win. But I fully support your Woodmead support.
I appreciate that. I think maybe let's roll in the next category, which
Please.
I have on to introduce to kind of like add another layer to this. So for supporting actor, the nominees are Benicio del Toro for One Battle After Another, Jacob Elordi in Frankenstein, Delroy Lindo in Sinners, Sean Penn in One Battle After Another, Stellan Skarsgård in Sentimental Value. So for my will win, I have Sean Penn. Because he is the only one who has managed to win two things. And that's good enough for me. So really, like, I think people were surprised that he won at BAFTA. He wasn't even there. And they were like, what is this? And then people were like, is this just a one-off thing? Is this because BAFTA he's never won a BAFTA. He's won 2 other Oscars, but he's never won a BAFTA. So maybe that's why people were really overthinking this. And then when he won the actor award, and again, he was not present to receive the award. It's just really, really baller move there. Then I was like, okay. Then I firmly put the Post-it note on top. I was like, okay, this is happening now. This is what it's been the whole time. We just didn't realize it. Yeah, maybe you make a good point in the chat, PT. Maybe he has a really good publicist who's like, maybe just don't go to these awards. Just let it ride.
We don't want to hear from you, actually, Sean.
Yeah,
why don't you stay lay low?
So that's where I'm at in terms of will win, and I do think that like it would be really nice, especially for like a Best Picture package for One Battle After Another, if Teyana Taylor and Sean Penn had sort of like matching Oscars, like his and her Oscars. I think there's something nice about that, actually. So then that pulled me back into supporting actress. I was like, oh, maybe I should switch to Teyana. I do think that the logic of Michael B. Jordan and Sinners did really well at SAG, and therefore Delroy Lindo is benefiting from it. I'm not sure about that argument. That seems like kind of a stretch to me. I've heard lots of people try to make the argument. And I think like if you're gonna, Delroy Lindo has just as much as a chance at this point as Stellan Skarsgård, because they have that kind of like, you've been around forever, you're overdue kind of narrative. So maybe they cancel each other out. I think Jacob Elordi is just too young at this point. He'll have another chance probably at some point later. And Benicio apparently was just a critics thing. Like that's what it seems like now, at least, right? That critics sort of willed his nomination into existence by giving him a bunch of prizes early on in the season. So I don't know. I don't even know if I have a spoiler at this point. I think it's just Sean Penn, and that's it. We don't need to overthink it. In terms of should win, I would pick Benicio. I would pick either Delroy or Benicio. Those are my two. I mean, this is hard. Or then there's Stellan. Oh no.
Four-way tie. Tie.
Right? This is tough.
Just the challengers freeze frame where all 4 of them grab an Oscar at the same moment.
I love it. But yeah, what do all of you think? Are people? Do you agree with me that it's just Sean Penn now, or what?
I think it does make sense. And the thing that kind of locked it in place for me was thinking about Adrian Brody and thinking about Frances McDormand and how the Oscar body, as it currently is constituted, didn't care that was their third Oscar for Frances, second Oscar for Adrian. Because like that was one of the sort of hand wringing of like, we're going to give a second Oscar to Adrian Brody when we could reward Timothée Chalamet, like a rising star. And then, with Frances McDormand, you could have given it to Carey Mulligan, or I think that was the other sort of main contender at that point.
Viola Davis.
Oh, and Viola Davis, of course, for Ma Rainey. So, like should Viola Davis have 2 and Frances McDormand also have 2, or should, she have a third? And I just don't think the Academy voters care. They just don't think about it that way. I don't think they care that Sean Penn has melted and given away his other Oscars, which is fine. That's his thing. Like his performance is great when leaving the theater. similar to what Greg was saying about Tana Taylor, like leaving the theater. I remember thinking it. Jasmine actually said it first. She was just sort of like, Sean Penn needs to win an Oscar. That was incredible. Like, he's so good in that role. That was the standout. And we spent a lot of time wandering the desert thinking about other things for a little while, and now we're back at Sean Penn. And I think Sean Penn winning Best Supporting Actor opens the door for what you were talking about, Jen, for Wunmi Masaku and Michael B. Jordan both winning acting awards for Sinners without needing to have the juice to take over director and picture. So one acting award might be enough. I agree with, again, I agree with you because I think that Tana Taylor and Sean Penn are going to win the supporting awards. Those were my will wins. But I think that like locking Sean Penn in here is going to sort of make the most sense. When I said, like, again, my thinking pre-SAG, actor awards, apologies, Greg, was that Leo would be making that move for an extra acting award for One Battle, and that Delroy was going to get the benefit of the BAFTA. I mean, this is a terrible thing to say, the benefit of being humiliated in public by a slur. That's not a benefit. That's terrible. That was an awful thing that happened to him. But I thought, like, people are just going to rallying around Delroy and they're going to support him. It looks like that's happening with Michael B. Jordan instead, and that Sean Penn and his performance that towers over One Battle. And I think people, like, to the point of folks might have problems with Tiana Taylor, I think that almost everyone loves Sean Penn. The only knock I've ever heard on it is it's too cartoony, which makes me wonder if they've seen Paul Thomas Anderson movies or ever heard about Thomas Pynchon and the way he writes stories. So, I think it does make sense. And I'm with you. I don't know who I would choose. I mean, I forget who we chose between Benicio and Delroy Lindo at the
I think
letters.
we gave it to Delroy.
Yeah. Okay.
At the letters.
Then I guess it's Delroy.
That sounds right.
What do you guys think?
I agree with Jen. I think it's going to go to Sean Penn. The role does seem like the most sort of like Oscar baity role out of all of them. And so my only hesitation was what Jen mentioned earlier, was he already had 2 Oscars in lead. And I don't know, PT, maybe about like this precedent for like someone winning in lead and then going to supporting. It often goes the opposite way, right? Like Meryl Streep won her first for Kramer versus Kramer in supporting, and then solely, I mean, she's been nominated in supporting, but she's won only in lead after. So it would be a little bit unusual, but Sean Penn in Milk and in Mystic River, that feels like ages ago, right? And I think it's just like people just really dig this performance, right? For it to have prevailed at BAFTA and Screen Actors Guild, this isn't like a bunch of people saying like, oh, this person is due for something and we owe it to him, right? This is just people just loving this character and this performance in a movie that they clearly love as well. I think for me, the spoiler would be Stellan Skarsgård. I still think that it's possible that he could pull this out. But Sean Penn in this list of supporting actors, Sean Penn is actually my should win too, even though I don't feel an urgency to hand him a third Oscar. Greg, what do you think?
I had a really good friend earlier who said this is a year where voters might conflate actor with character, and that's a pretty good argument against this absolute tool bag of a character. I don't know. We talk about our formative Oscars, and I can't remember what year this would be. Maybe somebody has a better memory. But one of the first Oscars I was really into was the year the host made a joke at the expense of some actor, maybe Clint Eastwood or something. And like an hour later, Sean Penn was presenting and he came out and he's like, actually, that is a fine actor and a national treasure. Do you remember who it was, PT?
I don't remember who.
It was Jude Law.
Oh, Jude Law.
It was Jude Law. That's right. Yeah,
Chris Rock making fun of all the movies Jude Law had been in.
Yeah. And so then I remembered that. And then it was like the formative years of my SNL viewing. So they did a whole sketch where something funny was going on and Sean Penn would just come in and be like, actually, you really shouldn't. So that's like that's how Sean Penn exists in my memory. And he's a bummer. I don't want to see him on stage in this ceremony. So you're probably right. I'm not going to pretend you're wrong because I know better than to do that. But I will say this is where filling out my ballot in Penn, I wanted to take a swing and I went with Stellan. So I even had already queued up the Andor monologue again, but I won't treat you all to that one more time. But Stellan is great. He does incredible work in whatever he shows up in. And I feel like that's a worthy career Oscar and a really good part and a really good job. So
My one rebuttal to what you're saying is by throwing my earlier observation under the bus in terms of how people feel about the characters. It's different when the character is clearly a villain. So if we're comparing Perfidia to Lockjaw, people might have like incorrect feelings about like, oh, but she left her kid and all well, she ratted all her friends out, right? Like people could have conflicting feelings about that character and that would result in a negative, like them not voting for her. But I feel like Lockjaw and Sean Penn's performance as Lockjaw is like so classic, like hammy villain. It's Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Bastards. It's
Christoph Waltz and Django Unchained. It's
he's a nice
But
guy in
isn't he-
Django.
yeah, I was gonna say he's not a villain in that, right? Like
I mean,
it's J.K. Simmons in Whiplash. It's sorry, I have the Wikipedia page. open,
Javier
so-
Bardem.
Right, yeah, Javier
Bardem.
Bardem, No Country for Old Men. There's a tradition of every once in a while we like to give the Oscar for supporting actor to these like over the top, delicious but clearly evil villains and characters, right? So that's kind of my response to that. Again, it's unfortunate. Like I don't think people should be voting with that gendered mindset, but that's what the history shows.
I do think, to Greg's point, it is quite possible that if Sean Penn goes to the Oscars, which I assume he would, and Sean Penn wins, it will be very similar to the Adrian Brody moment, where by the time he gets to the top step, everyone's like, "What are
Everyone's
we
like,
doing?
we regret everything.
Why did we do
why
this?"
why?
And not because it's not a worthy win, but because it's like, why did we put ourselves in the position to listen to this guy? Antonio, you asked a question, and I hate to say I was half prepared for it. I had looked up the list of people who have won both lead and supporting actor. There's only been 13 who have won, and that's across both genders, in actor and actress. There have been 13 people. 5 of them won a supporting Oscar after they won a lead Oscar. The first one, of course, we all know is Helen Hayes, a famous person we all remember, who won for a movie in the 30s. It's The Sin of Madeleine Claudet in 1931, and then was a supporting actor in Airport in 1970. Maggie Smith won for what did she win for? The Prime of Miss
Gene Brody
in 1969, and then California Suite, a Neil Simon penned movie in 1978 in supporting. Ingrid Bergman won a couple leads in the 40s, Gaslight and Anastasia in 1956, and then her third was Murder on the Orient Express. Gene Hackman won for French Connection, and then Unforgiven, and Jack Nicholson won for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, then supporting in terms of endearment, and his third was lead for As Good as It Gets. So some people do go back and forth, and there's some sort of, maybe Gene Hackman's the one that's standing out to be the most, and Ingrid Bergman sort of as well, as an elder statesperson kind of coming back and giving a performance that kind of feels like Sean Penn. The thing for me is whatever, like he did great in this movie, and he deserves it. And maybe it's the fact that I didn't really think that either Milk or Mystic River was like, yes, so glad he won for that. But like, I do not think of Sean Penn as a 3 Academy Award caliber career. He has the talent, but I also think because he's been such a difficult person for so long, that like I looked at his filmography and I'm just like, what are the movies that like he missed out on winning that it's worth the fact that he won these 2? I think this movie would be a very worthy win for me, but I'm just like, I don't know. Like this would be great if he was in the Stellan Skarsgård, Delroy Lindo. He's at this age and he's at this point and he's never won. We wouldn't be this would be Jesse Buckley times 100. Like we would be so easy to say, yeah, Sean Penn's getting his. This is great. It's a little weird. It's his third one, and I don't think he necessarily belongs in the club, but the voters seem to not care, and the performance is worth it. Third time's the charm. He really got an Oscar for a great performance that is standing out. So good for him.
We got to keep things moving because I am very tired.
Right.
I have to be up in like 3 hours.
Oh no!
So, all right, we're gonna move in. I joking aside, I think we're going to move into some easy territory now. So we are moving on to adapted screenplay. The nominees for adapted screenplay are Begonia, Frankenstein, Hamnet, One Battle After Another, and Train Dreams. Again, Jen thinks I'm a fragile, delicate baby bird who can't handle controversial categories. I think One Battle After Another has this entirely locked up. And listeners will remember from years prior, I think adapted means more when they do something to actually adapt it and not just translate it directly. And I think this is a great example of finding something special in an older novel set in a different time period and updating it and changing it to be about our time in incredibly prescient ways. I do still love Hamnet, and it's tempting to put that in should win, but I'm not going to. I think it's going to be one battle after another, and I think it should be one battle after another. That's my favorite adaptation of the year.
Here, here.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, what? Yeah, simple. No bad screenplays in this list, though.
No,
Like,
happy with all those. Absolutely.
but yeah, I mean, it's one battle, and that's pretty easy.
All right. Shall we move to original screenplay then? All right. The nominees are Blue Moon, It Was Just an Accident, Marty Supreme, Sentimental Value, and Sinners. So here, my will win and my should win, Ryan Coogler for Sinners. He's already won the BAFTA, Critics' Choice, National Board of Review. This feels like original screenplay often feels like a sort of like auteur award, and this feels like it would be in the vein of previous wins like Parasite, Get Out, and Promising Young Woman. I think this is a huge win for Sinners, and I think the acting awards I think are a little bit up in the air, but I think that despite some tough competition from Sentimental Value and Marty Supreme in particular, and it was just an accident too, right? I think that Ryan Coogler will take this. What do you all think?
Here.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, this has been like I won't say it's a bellwether, but like this is a testament to the power of these two movies that I think it has been months since there was any real question that like Sinners was taking one battle was taking the other, and we're good.
Yeah, it just makes too much sense considering the balance of other things. So I get to cover the new category for best casting.
Yeah.
The nominees are Hamnet, which would go to Nina Gold, Marty Supreme, it's Jennifer Venditti, One Battle After Another, it's Cassandra Kulukunis, The Secret Agent, Gabriel Dominguez, and Sinners, Francine Maisler. So because this is a new category, there is a certain amount of unknown going on here in terms of like what does the branch or what do Academy voters mean when they are voting for casting? Like, are they voting for the best? Is it just another best ensemble like we have at SAG? Is it for discovering new talent? Right? Like, we're still not sure about the rubric for this yet, but based on what's happened so far, I believe the best prediction is probably for Sinners. It won the best ensemble at SAG. And it has a kind of combination of like a deep bench of an ensemble, but also discovering new talent with Michael Caton, but then also just like charismatic movie stars in the lead roles, right? And the cast that really works well together. So that's what I would go with. I don't know. Am I oversimplifying this? What do you think?
No, that sounds right to me. BAFTA went to I Swear, a movie that's not in our slate here. So I think that the best bellwether is probably Screen Actors Guild Ensemble. So I go Sinners, and that would be my choice for should win too.
I'm with that. I think there's a risk maybe that this award because of this year could start to become the like consolation prize about just like, hey, you did good too, here's another Oscar for you, and it's like you didn't win best picture but you put together a really good cast, and maybe we only gave you one or two acting awards but you did a good job. I don't think that's like necessarily like what it should be or how it should be, but I think especially the fact that now the SAG Ensemble Award is going to end up being this weird, like it's both a best picture bellwether but also the best casting bellwether, that like could this be the Oscars weird version of that box office achievement award where it's not quite that, but it's just sort of like you get it too, like we got you on stage for a little bit. We'll get those folks to come up and talk, but that's nothing to do with what we should happen now. I think especially if, as we think it might happen, there's going to be, maybe like Sinners is not going to quite get into all the, or even any of the acting categories, then having this sort of ensemble adjacent casting based idea of look at all these great actors, look at the performances they got and how well, there was a great discovery in there. There's some veterans and like how amazing all this is. It makes total sense.
I'm on board with Sinners. I think if Sinners takes this, then we should think of this award as being interpreted as best ensemble. I'm not even going to call it my should win, but if it somehow goes to Marty Supreme, it feels like the best interpretation is like creative casting. And we talked a lot in our episode about Marty Supreme, how they found a lot of people who both like were coming into roles that resonated with their public personas, like Gwyneth Paltrow and the Shark Tank guy, whose name I always forget, who's really a vampire, and
Evan
also
O'Leary
who plays a character who's really a vampire. And, all the old New York gangsters, and we went on and on. So that to me, if we see a Marty Supreme win there somehow, that's like the most creative casting choices. It does sound like Josh Safdie did a lot of that work, though. So in his like discussion of casting it, it almost like de-emphasizes what his casting director did. I never know how fair that is with that relationship. So I would still take Sinners as likely. I hope it doesn't become the consolation prize, though I see that same danger that PT just outlined.
All right. So fun to have a new category. Thank you for bringing us through that, Jen. We're into the big two.
Wait, PT, we just need to mention on the Actor Awards, TM by SAG-AFTRA, they did do Your Beloved stunt ensemble, but they gave it out on the red carpet.
I know, and they didn't even make them do a stunt. They didn't even make them like tumble for it.
I couldn't believe, like, I was shocked that I was just like passing out of the room to go like make my snacks before the show, and they're like, "Oh yeah, and look who wins stunt ensemble." The end.
Onwards. I mean, for a streaming award show that like could go as long as it wanted. What it makes me question what the future of YouTube Oscars will be like, but who knows what that future looks like. We don't know what this future looks like either, but I think we have a pretty good idea for our penultimate category, Best Director. The nominees are, for the movie Hamnet, Chloe Zhao; for Marty Supreme, Josh Safdie; for One Battle After Another, Paul Thomas Anderson; for Sentimental Value, Joachim Trier; and for Sinners, Ryan Coogler. I think that even with the rush of Sinners, even with the sort of like there's a push, there's momentum, and I don't know the degree. There's obviously is momentum for Sinners. There's also a little bit of a degree of maybe wanting there to be narratives when there's been such a strong favorite since September when One Battle After came out. I don't think it's ever really been a threat that the winner of Best Director would not be Paul Thomas Anderson, because I think, it's his time. He has directed so many. This is his 10th movie. And I think, from my rewatching of them, like 7 of them are stone cold classics. The other ones are also quite good. There's none of them that are very bad. He has not won any Academy Awards. And it feels like this is his time. And even if there were to be a split, which we can discuss in a moment, whether there could be, I think that he is pretty locked in here. And I think the fact that Ryan Coogler would get an Oscar anyway because his screenplay looks like so locked in for original screenplay helps, because then it's like, okay, well, he's getting an Oscar too. Like he's not going to leave empty-handed. But I think that will win Paul Thomas Anderson. I think should win Paul Thomas Anderson, even though, again, we're in this like rarefied air of I think all 5 nominees are great. I don't think it would be weird for any of them to win in any given year. But I think in this year, the momentum we have, the narratives we've had, the arc of all the precursors have lined up, even when there's been question marks around other things. It's always been PTA in this category. And I think he's in line to be join the group of people who get 3 Oscars in one ceremony for his screenplay, for his directing, and also for Best Picture. Sorry to get ahead about Best Picture, but what do you all think about director? Any doubts? Any doubters for PTA?
No,
wow,
I think it's
PTA
done.
might achieve Sean Baker levels of fame and success. Wow.
No, because Sean Baker is actually higher. He would achieve Bong Joon-ho and Coen Brothers level of success.
That just makes me mad. I mean, I like Honora fine, but like Sean Baker is like, when we're talking about rarefied air, he doesn't fit at that level.
Tell PTA to edit his own movies, and he could win or do his own cinematography, and he could have taken 4 this year.
So I don't want to undercut the point. I completely agree with what you said, and PTA is just everybody knows Ryan Coogler will be back, so that's why you don't give it to Ryan Coogler. There's a chance PTA won't be back. I hope that's not true, but Licorice Pizza was mixed, and
Mhm.
this feels like a little bit of an achievement back. He's towards the end of his career. He's probably not at the very end, so I think you give it to him now.
Well, and to speak to him about his brother in name, at least after Grand Budapest, people would have been like, "Well, Wes Anderson will be nominated for picture and director again, of course, and he'll be nominated for so many more screenplays." And he's got his little short film Oscar, and that's nice. But
no, it's full size.
but but he has miniaturized it, so it fits in the dollhouse that he has in his room. Sorry, I thought you would have known. But yeah, like the expectation of someone who has been around a while and it's time to reward him, and then being like, well, we can wait for next time. Like the Academy is fickle, talent is fickle, history is fickle. We don't know what's going to happen. So I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad to be like, this is PTA's year, even with Sinners being so strong. I think up here it makes sense to go for him, which leads us, I think, into Best Picture. Antonio.
Nominees for Best Picture are Begonia, F1, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, The Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, Sinners, and Train Dreams. So here, I'm also not going to overthink it. One Battle, I think will win. I think should win. Sinners is right behind, but the Screen Actors Guild ensemble loss is its only real blemish, I think. Jen will correct me, but I looked back at films that won Best Picture but lost ensemble, and this was Enora last year, lost to Conclave. Nomadland, I don't think was even nominated for Best Ensemble, went to Trial of the Chicago 7, a movie that we've all thought about a lot. Green Book lost to Black Panther. The Shape of Water to Three Billboards, and Moonlight lost to Hidden Figures. So it happens, right? Like Screen Actors Guild ensemble isn't as good a bellwether as Producers Guild, Directors Guild, and all of those things have lined up, right? There have been plenty of chances for us to see an indication of something. The Sinners win last night was widely predicted, even despite the one battle sort of steamrolled through. So I think that this is still One Battle. What do you all think?
Yeah, I think it's closer than a lot of people think. And it's certainly closer than we all thought at the beginning of the season. But I do think it's One Battle After Another, and like for everything you just said, if I'm looking at all my Post-it notes scattered about my desk now, and I've sorted them by film, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins for Sinners, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wins for One Battle After Another, and that feels right to me in terms of Oscar puzzle math. That it would support that it's like a close race between those two films for Best Picture, and I think there are too many key categories. So I have One Battle in editing, cinematography, adapted screenplay, director. Like that's too overwhelming an Oscar package, Best Picture package.
I just want to say it's really nice that if number 2 on this list comes and spoils it and takes it from the favorite, I'm not mad whatsoever, right? Like, and PT said this in the chat, no bad movies. Like, sure, if F1 won, I might have a few questions, but like, I wouldn't be mad if most of these movies, it's just a great set of 10, and it's a real reason why we should have 10, and that they filled it out really well for the first time, I think, in recent memory.
I was definitely a little worried when it looked like Hamnet was going to be the like Bane challenger, because I was just like, oh no, I don't want to become the person I would become if Hamnet won over One Battle, and
your villain origin story,
and by extension over Sinners, over Sentimental Value, over Secret Agent, and all these other movies. But like, again, in a vacuum, even though I didn't connect with it, it's not like Hamnet is a very good movie. Like, it's very well made. It was not like what it just, it's not like, and I won't name other movies that some people have liked probably in recent years that got into the Best Picture 10. It's Maestro I'm thinking about. But anyway, I think, yeah, this is really good. I just think that it's especially the the final kind of step was the Producers Guild Award that also has a preferential ballot. And there was some idea of like, are there enough people who maybe really don't like One Battle, who keep it real low on a ranking, but that's not enough to take the first past the post type ballots. But maybe that opens the door for Sinners, if there's enough of those people, and there weren't. Like it won, and that is one of the strongest Best Picture bellwethers. I feel like it's this makes sense. This is very strong as a great movie, and yeah, I fully agree with Greg. It's great to be in the position of like, if there is the upset, and the second place movie takes over, I'm loving that because I love Sinners, and I love both these movies, and I think that either one would be a great title holder, so to speak, a great name to put on those columns outside of the Dolby Theater. I will gladly look up at either of them, but I think it'll be One Battle.
I personally would like to see a split because I think that would represent the year in movies better with these two. And especially since they're both from Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers is about to be no more. It just, to me, I would be kind of personally happy with that, but I'm also not mad at all if it goes One Battle for both director and picture.
So I would like to note something, and Jen, I think you made a good and fair point. So you have on your personal list, you have Michael B. Jordan and Wunmi winning.
I do right now, yeah.
Okay, so that is the discrepancy, because I was looking and I was like, what is the difference here? Because I've been keeping track, and based on our will win, not our should wins, but just our will wins, which is somewhat fractured because we each sort of get to choose for the categories we were assigned. We have One Battle winning 7, and we have Sinners winning 3. Where in my mind, I have been thinking that it is like they're going to be pretty equal. They're going to be like 5 and 5. The weird historical comparison, not in terms of quality of movies, but just in terms of outcome, is the cursed year of 2011 with The Artist and Hugo both taking 5. With Hugo, that was not quite the same divide. Hugo got all like below the line, and The Artist got mostly above the line. And no one's thought about either of those movies in a very long time. But still, like, and then it had Whiplash getting 2 or 3 kind of lingering underneath, and that would sort of be our Frankenstein for this year. But that's not the way we have called it when we assemble our list. It's much more like Everything Everywhere and All Quiet, or Oppenheimer and Poor Things, where we have a front runner. We have One Battle winning 7. We have Sinners winning 3. We have Frankenstein winning 3. K-pop Demon Hunters winning 2. And then 1 each for Marty Supreme, Hamnet, The Perfect Neighbor, Sentimental Value, F1, and Avatar Fire and Ash, plus the 3 shorts. All due respect, I did not include them in writing this up. But in terms of feature awards, that's what we have right now. And I mean, I think, it would be taking one from One Battle and one from Marty Supreme, and then we would be at 6 and 5, which I think that in my mind, that feels more about what I've been thinking of. But that's also because we said cinematography is leaning now towards One Battle, whereas I have, like, again, we joked about like keeping things penciled in for too long. I had penciled in Sinners in my mind, and maybe that's not the case. But it does seem like it's possible One Battle shows strength, at least based on what we are thinking, looking at them all individually. One Battle will be a little bit stronger. Sinners, very strong, solid, strong second place. But right now we only have it with score, original screenplay, and casting.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like enough to me.
But who knows? I don't know. We don't know.
I'm just glad I've gotten past the point where I'm like skeptic. Like I keep second guessing. Well, Sinners is going to flatline and everyone's going to be mad. Like that's just going to happen at some point. I'm now moved on from that. Maybe that's a mistake.
Well, yeah. I mean, I do think if it did end up with these were the numbers,
people would be upset.
There would be backlash.
Yeah.
There would be like, oh, I guess the Academy doesn't care about Black people still. With no acting wins, which is possible. But again, I also feel like it's possible that they win 2 or 3 at acting. It's such a coin flip in those 3 acting categories.
All right. I think we're closing the book on this for now. Antonio, I'm so glad you could join us for the above the line categories. Your insight is always so valuable. Let people know where they can find you. And I know there's only one place.
You can find me on Letterboxd at Elefano, Aelefano. Greg, Overticket Cass. Where can they find you?
People can find me on Letterboxd. Still trying to. I'm currently working on wrapping up that New York Times 100 movies. I'm down to my final 10 for the 21st century list, and they're all the ones that are really hard to find now. But as I check them off, people can see those reviews at Ion Cannon, EYEONCANON. PT, where can people find you and the podcast?
Well, you can find me on Letterboxd at PT McNiff, PTMCNIFF. You can also find me in the text threads for this group where I start to push for that we need to have a Patreon level where we just put out episodes called The Overticket. And that's going to be what we call it for the people who subscribe for extra content. In terms of the show, until we get to that point when we ever do that, you can just find us on Letterboxd as well. At LTR Pod is the account there. You can also find us on social media. We're on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at The Long Take Review. You can email us, thelongtakereview@gmail.com. And you are also welcome to just subscribe wherever you get your podcast, wherever you're listening right now. Subscribe to us and get new episodes. You'll get our Oscar reaction relatively fresh a day or two after the Oscars when we figure out what happened and why we should have known all along what the results were going to be. Jen, where can folks find you?
Thanks. You can find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Sopchockchai, SOPCHOCKCHAI, or on Letterboxd at Qui-Gon Jen. Greg needs to go to bed.
He's in darkness. He's already shut down.
Always.
Yeah.
He's left it so it's just the spotlight on the Marty Supreme Wheaties box.
That's true.
Oh.
Dream big, my friends. Dream big soon.
Thanks for listening. You can follow The Long Take Review on Substack at thelongtake.substack.com. Subscribe for free, and you'll be the first to know when a new episode drops. You'll also receive occasional written reviews of new Star Wars and Marvel.